Today, we will review the second race from Formula E at Berlin during Formula E Fest. António Félix da Costa, what has he done to turn the Formula E world upside down? And what's going on with Jean-Eric Vergne and his third championship hopes? Formula E Zone and the Grid Network welcome you to a special Formula E Fest program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of Formula E Fest. I'm Kobe Lambert from the PodiumFinish.net, and right here with me is Joe Samniego. Joe, after 2 days of racing in Formula E, what have you thought so far on all of the action?
So far, it's been really entertaining. The racing has been good. As Jack, who normally would be with us, would say, Formula E is very unpredictable. I think a lot of people didn't predict the domination we will see from António Félix da Costa, but still, there's a lot of action going on throughout the Formula E field.
Yeah, definitely. You speaking of Antonio Félix da Costa, he's really on a roll right now. Da Costa is 2 for 2 right now in Berlin, and he's won the last 3 Formula E races. And the only other person to do this in Formula E history was Sebastian Buemi. And now looking at the recap of race 2, Sebastian Buemi set the fastest time in qualifying and was the last driver to win 3 in a row. But how but however. Antonio Félix da Costa took the 3 points for winning pole position, and the race got started off well for Nick De Vries, who got around Alex Lynn for third in the final spot on the podium early on, but then Nick De Vries had an unfortunate problem and ended up retiring from the race. And we had 3 full course cautions in this race, and one of them was obviously for De Vries. And Max Gunther for the BMW squad tried to redeem himself from getting disqualified in race 1, and he actually did get off to a great start, getting eight spots. But however, he endured more trouble with that punctured tire, which ultimately ended his day. But Antonio Félix da Costa would pull ahead and end up winning, taking home 25 points for the win. And however, Stoffel Van Dorn and Mercedes snatched the fastest lap, scoring 1 point. And looking at Antonio Félix da Costa, it was possible to score 60 points in the first 2 races, and out of those 60 points, he scored 58. Almost got the max points, and he's the second driver to get 3 in a row with Sebastian Buemi, and he's the first driver to lead every lap in back-to-back races in Formula E history. Joe, do you think Antonio Félix da Costa is now primed for the championship?
Yes, he is definitely primed for the championship. He has to have super bad luck and score almost no points for 3 races. We only have 4 races left, so it's going to be really amazing. The thought that he could sit out the next 2 races with a 68-point lead, and he'll still be the points leader. Of course, he's not going to sit out. If he finishes in the top 10, which he's likely going to, he has this championship just about wrapped up. We're going to get more into that. The other thing that's really interesting with this, we have never seen anything like this in Formula E before. The championship has always come down to the final 2 races. Only once has it been determined before the final race, but that was still part of a doubleheader weekend. By Sunday, if things go his way, he could already have wrapped up, and that's just amazing for Formula E, considering how competitive and how unpredictable, because we know if you're in the back of the pack, you're battling, you're banging and beating with everybody else. But if you're in the lead, like Da Costa was, you got full control of this race.
Yeah, we know that Antonio Félix da Costa now has a large lead heading into the final 4 races of the season. And now let's take a look at the point standings and what everyone has to do to keep their championship hopes alive.
Yeah, so taking a look at the point standing, it's going to be really interesting to see Antonio Félix da Costa with 125 points. Normally, we'll show where people stand point-wise behind, but to make it simple, this is the scenario. If Antonio Félix da Costa is to win race 3, that means winning just the 25 points. We're not going to factor in bonus points for pole, fastest lap, and fastest qualifying lap. As you can see, if he was to win and earn the 25 points, he already has it where the top 2 have to finish 6 or better. Mitch Evans, horrible start. He has to finish 5th or better. And look at Buemi, Bird, Alexander Sims, 2nd, 3rd, and then Lauterer, Gunther, and Roland. All of them are looking at having to do just about win and keep Antonio Felix da Costa behind. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everything's going to turn out. I know Kobe, looking at the top 10, in the event Antonio Felix da Costa was to go out there, do you see any of these drivers beating what they have to do to ensure that we still have a championship battle?
Well, with with Antonio Felix da Costa's current form, it seems like it's going to be game over at this point. All Antonio Felix da Costa really needs to do is remain consistent. He doesn't necessarily, need to, sweep Berlin and win all 6 races. But if he can definitely finish on the podium in every race, it's definitely going to be game over for these drivers. And I think the only way that anyone else is going to have a true shot at winning this championship, they're going to need Antonio Felix da Costa to either get caught up in an incident on track or just have a mechanical failure or whatever, because I don't really see anybody else touching Antonio Felix da Costa right now.
Yeah, I don't see anybody really touching Antonio Felix da Costa either. It's going to be just something where they need him to have bad luck. They need him to have a bad race, not score points. If he gets second place, he's still, we're going to see shortly on how the bottom two in the point standings are looking at being eliminated, which are Eduardo Montoya and Oliver Rowland. If Antonio Felix da Costa scores points, they have to finish ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa. If they don't, they're eliminated. If da Costa wins, both of them are eliminated. However, if da Costa doesn't score points and Eduardo Montoya and Oliver Rowland don't score points either, they are still eligible for the championship. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all these mind games essentially going to keep playing up. Now, if you're in the top 9, you're obviously already trying to play catch up to Antonio Felix da Costa. What are you going to try to do to beat him?
Well, the only thing they can really do is try to go out there, score max points, win the polls at the fastest lap, win the race. That's really all you can do at this point. And you're gonna need the Costa not to finish in the points, and you need to score max points these final 4 races, or I'm afraid it's definitely gonna be game over. Right now, it looks like Antonio Felix da Costa and his Diaz de Cheetah team. They aren't slowing down at all, and they're just gonna keep piling it on. And as more drivers are going to get eliminated from the championship fight.
Yeah, more drivers are going to get eliminated. Already, we have a couple drivers that have been eliminated after race 2. Felipe Massa, Rene Rast, Oliver Turley, Nico Muller, Alex Lynn, and Sergio Settle Camera all have been eliminated. Now, of course, some of them, like Rast, came in, he hadn't started a race, but just because of the number of points available and the potential, if he was to sweep weekends, he could still get in that championship fight. But now all of them are out of the championship. One driver, literally in a must win situation, is the defending champion, John Eric Verne. He started off great in the front row with Antonio Felix da Costa, running second. But then all of a sudden, he started falling back, finished outside the points, and then he just had a miserable second race where he only was able to score 1 point. Let's take a look at what he has to do to keep his championship alive. If he wins, he has to hope that Antonio Felix da Costa does not score 21 points or more. At that point, Antonio Felix da Costa has the tiebreaker right now with the most wins, 3. So as long as Antonio Felix da Costa gets second pole and a plus bonus point, and John Eric Verne, if he wins, he could still be in it. Of course, if John Eric Verne for second place, which is 18 points, you can see then Da Costa has to essentially fall behind 15 points or lower, and goes all the way down to third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, where essentially Da Costa has to fall behind. But the big thing, if he finishes ninth place, even if Antonio Felix da Costa scores no points, he is eliminated from the championship. 10th place, he is eliminated. So it's really interesting. The pressure's really on him to finish ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa and get 8th place or better. Do you see John Eric Verne finishing in the top 10 and especially ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa?
No, no, not at all. I don't think we're gonna see Jean-Eric Verg become a 3-time Formula E champion this time around. I mean, it definitely probably hasn't been the season that he's hoped for so far. But Antonio Felix da Costa has just been so dominant right now. I don't see him, coming within reach of da Costa. I think that this is really da Costa's championship to win, and he's definitely in command, and he's like in another zip code right now in comparison to the other competitors.
Definitely in another zip code. One of the things, of course, I pretty much agree with you. It seemed, especially after the first race started, and John Ray Burns started getting frustrated on the radio with Antonio Felix da Costa. He started following back. It just seemed like the mind games started getting to him, and he has just essentially crumbled. It's really surprising to see this, considering he is a two-time champion of Formula E. He could have been easily the first person to go get 3 championships in a row, but that is really fading, and I feel like his championship hopes are done. Now, of course, his championship hopes still are very slim, but the big thing, it's his teammate that's essentially leading the championship and has a championship to lose. If you're Dashida, DS Dashida, will you start looking at, okay, all intention on wrapping up the Drivers' Championship with Antonio Felix da Costa, or are you still going to try to give both of them an equal opportunity at winning that race?
Well, at this point in the season, with 4 races to go, Antonio Felix da Costa has that massive lead in the championship, and Jean-Eric Verg, his chances of winning are basically slim to none. So I think right now that Antonio Felix da Costa has to be the number one driver in the DS Techeetah camp.
Definitely, he is the number one driver right now. Such a huge lead. Last thing they would want is something to happen where da Costa starts in the back, mid pack, is involved with all the banging, beating, everything that goes on in the mid pack and Formula E races. We saw front wings, get knocked off, brought out full course yellows. If he's out there in the pack, he's acceptable to bad luck and not scoring points, which the Cheetah don't want that. They want him to try to wrap up the championship. They want the Cheetah to be the number one team in Formula E. So definitely going to this race, I see where if John Vernon has a poor qualifying effort, he is not going to be the top priority if he was the pole winner to try to get that win. He will be okay. You're technically the number 2 driver because we got a championship with Antonio Felix Costa. We don't want to lose. Now, some of the other drivers that are in literally must-win situations for any hope in the championship include Daniel Abt. He needs to sweep race 3, essentially fastest lap in qualifying, the pole, win the race, fastest lap in the race, and he still needs the Costa to finish ninth or worse to have any hope at the championship. James Collado, very similar, sweep race 3, have the Costa finish 7th or worse. D'Ambrosio, sweep race 3, the Costa has to finish 6th or worse. Robin Fringe has to sweep race 3, and the Costa second place or worse, and no bonus points. And then De Vries, who was looking good in race 1, but now in race 2, and with that DNF, De Vries needs to win. He doesn't need the bonus points, but he definitely needs the Costa to not get second place or a pole award, because those bonus points will help him out. Out of those drivers that I had just mentioned, is there any in that group that you feel still have a legitimate shot at beating Antonio Felix da Costa?
No, not at all, Joe. I really think that unless Antonio Felix Acosta just goes out there in those final 4 races and absolutely has the worst luck in the world, then I really don't think that anybody in that group is going to catch him. As I mentioned before, this is his championship to lose, and he's well in command like right now. Antonio Felix Acosta, comparing this in the football terms, he's up 42 to zip at the half, and and it would be really surprising if he ended up losing this championship in the end, because I think that right now he's driving the best of anyone right now in Formula E.
He is driving the best out of anyone in Formula E. When it comes to the names I mentioned, I don't see any of them really with a chance at getting the championship. Daniel Abt, the Neo team, they don't have the speed for a Super Pole. If there was a Super Pole and the fastest qualifying lap by Neo, that would be the biggest shock of the weekend because that team has not had the speed. Nick De Vries, he looked very good in race 2. Race 1. But then race 2, that DNF, and then of course he got out of the car, pushed it out of the way, so he got a fine from Formula E stewards. Thankfully, no points were affected by his penalty, but still, he does not. He needs a lot of luck. I mean, to go out there to win and hope Antonio Felix Acosta doesn't finish well within the top 10, that's asking a lot. I see Antonio Felix Acosta finishing in the top 10 and essentially carrying all that momentum to the championship. Now, one of the big things it looks like we're really battling for second place. When we look at that second place battle, Lucas DeGrasse and Stoffel Dorn, they're tied because Stoffel got the fastest lap. Mitch Evans, despite his bad luck, he's still there. The lack of consistency between second place all the way down to 10th place has really allowed that to be a really tight championship. With this battle for second place, is this really the battle going forward that everyone should be focusing on since the championship is sort of now almost out of reach of everybody?
Oh yeah, definitely. The battle for second place is definitely going to be interesting because looking at the point standings right there, it's very close. I mean, I mean, like it looks like all the way down to Oliver Rowland. If things fall yeah, right there down to Oliver Rowland. If things fall your way, you can still finish second. Although the championship, is going to be out of reach for a lot of those drivers up there, and a lot of the drivers in the top 10 who are not eliminated yet. They're going to be eliminated soon, especially if Antonio Félix da Costa keeps going out there and dominating these races. But yeah, I really think the battle for second is definitely going to be the thing to watch moving forward, and also drivers who are trying to end their seasons on a high note.
Now, definitely trying to end the season on a high note is one of the drivers tied for second place in the points, Lucas Di Grassi. Coming into the race weekend, a lot of people did not see Audi as the dominating team they used to be. In fact, during the broadcast, Jack Nickel even said it was probably the worst Audi car. And we saw Lucas Di Grassi take that car to the podium. He now has second place. Now we're going to have an interesting issue where instead of just running the same reverse course, it's going to be now a different course. So it's going to be really interesting. Do you see sort of the Grassi being the driver where he is sort of the favorite for second place, or do you think we're still going to have the battle with him and everybody for second place position?
I definitely think second. I definitely think it's gonna be a wide open battle for second place in the championship. Seems like just mentioned. It seems like from second to 10th, if things go your way, it can fall like right into your lap where you can go out there, perform well. It seems like the Costa is in a league of his own right now, and if at this point, speaking realistically, I'd be like, yeah, the Costa is gone for now, so might as well focus on second place and trying to finish as high as I can in the championship. So I definitely think that it's going to be wide open, especially we raced on the reverse course, and now we're going to the traditional Berlin course for the next two races in this Formula E Fest. And just mentioned Lucas Degrassi, and also with Sebastian Buemi. Do you think they'll have an edge with the traditional Berlin course since they have past wins on this certain circuit?
I believe so. I know with the reverse course, Antonio Felix da Costa looked really good. Entering Formula E Fest, we were saying how he has never won in Berlin. He only had one top 10 finish in his past races at Berlin. But that was a traditional course, not the reverse course. The reverse course, some of the things we learned was tire wear was really big for all the teams. When we come to the traditional course, a lot of notes that the teams have from past years, they're now again relevant. Lucas Degrassi has one there. Buemi has one there. I mean, even Jerome D'Ambrosio has one there. Now, all of a sudden, these drivers, they're in the track familiar with their past racing history, their past setups. This definitely will close the gap to Antonio Felix da Costa. Will Antonio Felix da Costa be outside, say, the top 10? I highly doubt that. I expect him to be in the top 10. I expect him to be top 5 in qualifying. Because now, in a way, I almost see him playing defense and keeping his lead, and especially since he has a large lead.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I don't see Antonio Felix da Costa falling out of top 10 all in the final four races. Unless he's involved in some argy bargy out there, or just has some mechanical failure. Yeah, I really do think that this is going to be Antonio Felix da Costa when it's all said and done. And heading into Formula E Fest, we all thought that maybe Jaguar Mitch Evans might be able to challenge the Costa for the championship. They were looking like championship contenders at Jaguar, but after the past two races, now that's simply not the case. Joe, do you think is this a case of the unpredictable nature of Formula E, or is Jaguar like completely dropped off their game? Since the shutdown heard.
Seems like they really just dropped the game essentially. Coming into it, everyone saw them as one of the favorites. The team was looking fast. They had gotten a win with Mitch Evans. Things were looking great. 5 months off, something had just fallen out where they don't seem to be themselves. It's just really surprising because we have seen Jaguar climb up steadily, and then this weekend, first started with Collado and his powertrain issue. Yeah, that could happen to just about any team, but it was really surprising that it happened to them, Jaguar, which you would assume coming into this race weekend, they would just have every single little thing ready and prepared because this is their first opportunity at a championship against the Cheetah, in which the Costa we all anticipated wasn't going to be exactly having a cakewalk. But that has all proven us unwrong, as Jack would say. Formally, so unpredictable. I think none of us would have predicted Jaguar to this slow of a start.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect Jaguar to have this much struggles. I understand, James Collado has been struggling a lot, in Formula E, and it looks like he's going to be out of Formula E next year because, you got Sam Bird going to be coming into the team alongside Mitch Evans. And speaking of James Collado, it actually really surprised me that he struggled so badly in Formula E because James Collado, that's one of the high profile names in GT racing around the world. When James Collado's driving for AF Corsa in that Ferrari, Collado is, one of the best out there in the GT world. And when you see Collado in Formula E, it's just been really surprising that he's been so far off the pace. And well, while these drivers are all world class and everything, but even just because James Collado is one of the top GT drivers in the world, that doesn't mean that he'll have the same type of success in Formula E. And and speaking of Sam Bird, do you think Sam Bird should be concerned about Jaguars drop off in performance, considering that he's going to be joining the operation next season?
Possibly. One of the big things with Sam Bird joining Jaguar, when he was signed up for Jaguar going into contract negotiation, Jaguar was looking really good. They had the speed, they had good cars, they were finishing very well in the championship hunt. I know when we talked with Jack, and we all had agreed, this is a move by Sam Bird to get a championship. He's been really close with Envision Virgin Racing, but hasn't closed a deal. Coming into this race weekend, one win, the first race of the year, but he was 10th in the points. Now, two races later, he is climbing up the points. He's looking really good. He got his Virgin Racing car up to the top five in race one, and the Jaguars have dropped the ball, and they're not anywhere close to where they were on compared to before the pandemic. If I was Sam Bird, I'll be concerned too. It's like I signed up to join a championship caliber team. Here we are, championship week. Granted, a lot of unpredictable circumstances with the pandemic. Jaguar is not looking good. And if I was Sam Bird, I'll be concerned too of what did I just sign myself into for next year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you right there, Joe. I mean, it's really crazy. If I was somebody, signing the contract, Jaguar was looking good in a pre-pandemic world, and I would have been like, yes, I'm going to be driving for a top Formula E team, and now it looks like Jaguars, falling to, well, not necessarily, they haven't necessarily, fallen to the rear of the pack, but it seems like they're more of a mid-pack team right now. It's gonna be interesting to see if they can maybe try to find something in these final four races so they can head into the off season, feel more confident about their program for next season. But if I'm Sam Bird, I'm definitely a little worried that I might have made a big mistake for my Formula E career, leaving my current team to go to a Jaguar who might be struggling next season. But as we know, lots of things can happen in the unpredictable nature of Formula E. you know, Jaguar might, work on, might bring a great car for next season, or on the other hand, they might not have a great car. Is this something we'll just have to, I know I said this a lot on all of our other programs. We're just gonna have to wait and see.
That's the big thing in auto racing. Wait and see, especially since Formula E is going to have a very long off season. Traditionally, they'll start second half of the current year into the first half of the following year. But for next year, all the race dates for next season is in the 2021 calendar year. So it's going to be really interesting. And the big thing next year, it is a world championship recognized by the FIA. So it's going to be really exciting. I think that's going to really bring Formula E to the next level of competition. And for Sam Bird, he joined that team to try to win a championship. If that team's not championship caliber, that just made his goal really hard and it's going to be really unpredictable what's going to happen in the next 6 months after we've complete the Formula E week, in which for Formula E fans, please, we encourage everyone, hashtag Formula E Fest. I know Formula E Zone, us at the Grid Network, a couple other folks are using that hashtag. This is a really exciting opportunity since we have 1 week of racing ahead. We still got more Formula E racing Saturday, Sunday, and then again next week. We will be with you all week long with the Grid Network. And of course, tomorrow, Grid Live tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. We got a lot to talk about. I know from everything from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA. It's going to be really exciting. And then Grid Live post race Sunday following everything. Then back to our Formula E programming. We'll have Jack with us again. And then, of course, Grid Tonight, Wednesday. Kobe, I know when it comes to the busy schedule, I know you're one of the busiest reporters out there covering every race. This weekend, what's on your schedule? Because I know you got a lot of NASCAR, a lot of Formula E as well. What all you got going on?
Oh yeah, later this evening covering the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series race at Michigan. Yeah, and that's all for tonight. And then tomorrow gonna be covering Road America with the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And then I believe on Sunday I'll be doing the cup race, and then that'll be it for me. And then all the attention is gonna shift towards the Brickyard. Indianapolis 500 practice kicks off on Wednesday, and we'll be having a special edition of Grid Tonight on Wednesday night, where we're gonna discuss the first day of practice and all of the happenings at the Brickyard. And so we definitely encourage you to check out Grid Tonight on Wednesday evening, because I'm sure there'll be a lot to talk about coming out of Indianapolis.
Definitely a lot coming out of Indianapolis all weekend long. We got a lot of racing. Formula E Fest will continue on. I'll be covering that as well as the NASCAR and Formula One. And then, of course, we got MotoGP. So it's just going to be a really busy weekend. And it could have been even more busier if we didn't have the IndyCar race and the Australian Supercar race postponed. So definitely, we encourage all our fans, visit gridranking.com, find our YouTube channel, Grid Network, subscribe, click the bell so you receive video notifications, and then follow us on Twitter, as well as the Grid World Motorsport League, and of course, our friends at Formula E Zone. They've been with us all week and next week as well for this really historic event that is Formula E Fest. For Kobe Lambeth at thepodiumfinish.net, my name is Joe Samniego from the Grid Network. Thank you for tuning in to us. We'll see you next time, Saturday morning, for Grid Live.